going to focus on accessibility. I'm going to go through some of the concepts. I'm going to show a PowerPoint in a sec. So I don't forget later on, if you go to 3csn.org, we do record all of these sessions. So this session will be available, and all the past sessions are available as well. So let's say, for example, you missed something, something's too fast, or you want to review a concept. All of the accessibility videos are similar in content because it's kind of like you know how to do it or you don't. So if you want to go through something a little slower, stop and go, that kind of stuff, all of these videos are available at 3csn.org, which is in the chat. All right, so the way it'll work is I'm going to show a PowerPoint in a sec, and I'll go through some stuff, and I'll pause frequently for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. This session takes about 45 minutes. Maybe 40, depending on the questions and the pace. So there also will be time at the end for questions. Okay. So first will be a PowerPoint, then I'm going to show a Canvas shell. So let me share my screen. And then PowerPoint, share. Let's get that going. Oops, I always forget to go to the top there. Okay. So this is a little bit different. This is a little bit of an older PowerPoint. I apologize, but this is from 3CSN. We're grateful that you're here. We're very thankful. While this is kind of put out there as a training session for all of you, every session that we host, you make us better. Like my courses are better from the questions, from the feedback. All of our sessions are better. So any question you have, any feedback, please don't hesitate, and that's important. And this thing won't seem to move. Okay, so basically 3CSN is about theory of change, right? Because this really is a time of change. I mean, our whole world has changed. A year ago, even 6 months ago, I would not be able to hold these sessions. I would be attending them. But my whole world has been rocked. But the bottom line of all of this training and what you're going through, and that's why I appreciate why you're here, is greater student success. You know, that's important. Why will this not switch? Okay, so just so you know, this is a community agreement. So this is a little bit of an older PowerPoint, but the bottom line is, don't hesitate, right? Don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to stop me, that kind of stuff. I mean, like it says here, assume best intentions. We're all here in this together. And the bottom line of accessibility, yes?
The slide is not on the community agreements. It's on what will you be learning. So if you want to go up when you're.
That's weird.
I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
So there's welcome, there's theory of change. It's not switching over?
No.
How's that?
Maybe you need to stop sharing and then reshare.
Yeah. All right, I'll try that again. That's weird.
There you go. Yes.
Okay, that's strange. And that just goes to show you, I mean, there are technology issues all the time. I've done these probably, I feel like 50 sessions now, and every session there's another glitch. So that's why, you can't worry about it. You can't stress out on things like this because things happen. And just like, Diana stopped me and said, hey, fix it. That's what it takes. It really takes truly helping everybody. And this thing will not switch over. Okay, so our specific learning goal for this session is to introduce you to the basics of accessibility on Canvas. Okay. So just kind of a heads up that I'm not going to be focusing on websites, PDFs, documents, and PowerPoint specifically. But the bottom line is if you understand the concepts, and that's what this is all about. So I'm going to Canvas, I'm going to focus on Canvas, but if you understand the concepts behind like headers and alt text, you just need to know that if you have a Word document, you also have to have headers and alt text on Word documents. Same thing with your PDF, same thing with your PowerPoint. So all of those concepts are the same. Because basically what happens is that if a student who is blind or a student who is deaf is going to engage your course material, whether it's on Canvas or outside of Canvas, they're going to engage it in the same way, usually in the form of a course reader. There's one called JAWS, and basically that reader will read. So if a student cannot see, that reader will read it for them in a very specific format. And you need to understand that format. So when you develop your content, the reader will read it similarly, whether it's on PowerPoint or PDF or Canvas. So that's the key thing there. Okay, so what we'll be learning. So first I'm going to talk about captioning. So just so you know, and this is complicated. It's taken me a while. I finally have all of my videos, well, most of my videos captioned, and it's taken me a while to get them captioned. A couple of videos on my website I do not have captioned, and I'm curious to see what the reviewer says about this. because I'm just having them look at the person speaking. I'm not having them process content. So I do have it like a caveat around it saying you don't need the content. I just want you to look at this. And then I have a description later on, because obviously if you can't see, you can't look at it, but I just have them as samples. So we'll see how the reviewer processes that. But the bottom line is, if you have material on your page, you have to have it captioned, and you have to have it fully captioned. So captioning means is that there is some content, there are words below the video that match what the person's saying. So there are a number of ways to caption your video. Probably the one you have the easiest access to right now, and it's really easy and straightforward, is Zoom. So let's say, for example, you have a PowerPoint, and in class you were a PowerPoint professor, and you showed PowerPoints all the time, and you would talk through the slides, which is fantastic, right? You may do the same thing on Zoom. So what I recommend that you do is you set yourself up a Zoom session, share your screen. You don't even have to have students there, and talk through the PowerPoint. And what's great about that, make sure you set it to record, and it will caption it for you. So Zoom will caption your videos for you. And it's pretty good. You know, the ones I've gone to, there are a couple of small errors, but the Zoom has been very good. So that's a great way just to talk through stuff. And if you're going to do classes, record yourself. And then what you do is you have a link. So you talk through your Zoom, and you talk through your PowerPoint, and then you can put it on your course. So that can be a content page for your course. Great, super easy thing to do. You also may use YouTube. I originally used YouTube, so I would record my lectures in the classroom, and I will display them. But the problem with YouTube is that it's pretty good. You'll get like 85, 90% captioning rate. The biggest problem with YouTube is that it doesn't have punctuation. So it misses a couple words, and it doesn't punctuate very well. But the good thing about YouTube, if you set up your own account, you can go and you can edit. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward to edit. What I'm doing now is I'm doing called 3C Media, and I'll show you what that looks like. So 3C Media is great, but the problem with 3C Media is that it's not always active. So this is a state-funded site. So what I did was all the videos that I recorded of myself speaking that I originally put on YouTube, I sent them. So it's 3cmediasolutions.org. So again, 3cmediasolutions.org. What you do is you take your video and you upload it to them, and they caption it for you. It's great. So it takes about a week. So I've put in probably 40 videos. I've also have a system, and that's kind of a different level, because I think Amara does this as well, is I took some videos off of YouTube and I pulled them in. So I took them off of YouTube, and then I sent them to 3C Media to caption those as well. Amara is a captioning site that you can use for, they will caption videos for you. And there's also 3Play Media. So there are a lot of other sites that can capture. Some are pay, some caption, I keep saying capture. Some are pay, some are not, but there are a lot of options. So the bottom line is that you have to have your videos captioned. And actually, I don't want to forget something about 3C Media. And that is, so the state funds that, so it disappears sometimes, because basically they're paying people to sit down and caption your videos, but sometimes that funding runs out. So for about 2 months at the beginning of the year, 3C Media was not captioning. So if you're going to use that option, use it quickly. And I'm going to show you once I get to it, but what's great about 3C Media is that you may have it, I have it at my campus, is that there's kind of a pull down, drop down menu, 3C Media. I just click on the video and it drops it right where I want it. It's great. Okay.
Josh?
Well, yeah.
Just a quick question from Nick. She was wondering if the captioning you're talking about from Zoom, is that the one that provides the transcript?
You get both.
Okay.
So basically what you do is you get 3 versions of it. So you get the video, and the video will be captioned across the bottom. And then you can also provide a transcript. And that's one thing I was going to talk about a little bit later, but talk about it now. So the highest level of accessibility with captioning is also providing a transcript. So if you can, the only thing about Zoom is that it gives you like this weird file that isn't great. I found that when I needed a transcript from Zoom, what it does is it kind of has the video here, and then it has the text on the side. I copied and pasted the entire text, and then I put that into a Word document and fixed it up a little bit. I noticed that was easier to do because the Word transcript that they gave was pretty wonky. So that's what I do. But yes, that's your highest level of captioning. If you have a video that has it, so they can read the content, but then they also have a transcript, then that's glorious. It's the word of the day. Okay, so I'm also going to show you how to do website URLs. So we need to get past the days of here's my website www. It goes on and on, because if you have a screen reader, it will read every single letter. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll talk about headers, paragraphs, and tables, color contrast, alt text. Briefly talk about course design, and then I'll get into Canvas accessibility features. So before I move on, are there any questions?
Let's see here. There's something in the chat. Let me go there. Yes, Carlos is asking, where do you place the edited transcript once completed?
Above it. Usually there's a link. You'll just say, here is the edited transcript. So what I would do, so that's kind of a different level. So you go down this deep rabbit hole. So let's say, for example, you have a transcript, and your transcript is a Word document. Then you have to make sure that Word document is also accessible. So I'll talk about that, or you can make it as a link. So you can create it as a content page in Canvas. And then what you do is with that content page is that you just provide a hyperlink to that content page. Okay, so you probably wouldn't want to have it below it, because then you have to scroll through the whole thing. It should be a separate page. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop share and I'm going to reshare. Where is my Google Chrome? Okay. All right, so here's my page. Now, just kind of a heads up, if you did not know, I'm going to go through the content editor on Canvas. The content editor originally is going to happen in July, but now it's going to happen at the end of the year. They're moving to a new content editor. And it's happened to me once before, just kind of a heads up. I was right in the middle of working something. All of a sudden I was like, what happened? It switched to the new content editor for about 2 hours, and then it went back. So Canvas must have been doing something. So just kind of a heads up, I'm going to show you this. And if it ever looks different within the next whatever, they'll probably do something and it'll be back, because that's exactly what I experienced. So a little bit about course design. So I did a module session a couple days ago, and I'll probably do one next week. A lot of accessibility concepts are really about course design as well, because it's not just the mechanics of making a header and that kind of stuff, but it's also how easy it is your course to navigate. Because if your course isn't easy to navigate, it's going to be that don't have accessibility concerns, and your students that do. Because if you're jumping around, it's not easy to follow. So that's something I want to be mindful of when you're designing your course, is that the better organized and the better structured your course is, the easier it is to follow and the more accessible to everybody. So let's look at a page here.
Josh?
Yes.
Here's a question from Michael about clarifying what you meant by content editor. Does that have to do with course design?
No, I'm gonna show you the content editor right now. It's just whenever you hit edit on something. So let me go to my module here. So let's go to about your instructor. That's me. This is my instructor page. So whenever you hit edit right here, all of this right here, that's your content editor. And there are different names for it. That's just what this is generally called. It might be called different things, but basically it's the same kind of stuff. You have the same thing with your Word documents. All of your documents have this, how you edit this content, okay? Okay, so you have your page and you think, okay, so I have a page here. I have a quote up on the top. I have an image here. So these are both considered to be images. I have some hyperlinks here. So that's kind of a thing too. So it's not a link, it's a hyperlink. And then I have some stuff back. All right, so what you want to do is you want to think about all what's available up here. That's important. So what you're doing is when you have all of these options, I'm not going to go through all of the options, but basically this is how you create your page. So the first thing is if you have external pages. So let's say, for example, your syllabus links to a PDF or your syllabus links to a Word document. My first question for you is why? Why do you have external documents on your page? Do you absolutely need those, or is that something that you're just kind of used to? So first of all, just let's say, for example, a student is on his or her phone, and then you have a PDF. So, and then they have to kind of click out of your, whatever you're working on, to look at that PDF. So sometimes you might need a PDF. So you might need like a Google Doc because they're working on something. But if it's just an external document for its own sake, what I recommend that you do is you take that page and copy and paste that page to a page on Canvas, and then make it accessible. Because one, it's about course design, student-centered design. It's easier to navigate if it's on Canvas, but also two, it's easier to do accessibility on Canvas than it is on a Word document. And just so you know, if you have a PDF, unless you have Adobe Acrobat, you cannot do accessibility. Like, you can't edit the document. So a lot of people say things, oh, like PDFs are better because students can edit it. And I was like, well, is that really a problem? I mean, are students really editing your documents? It's very difficult to make accessible. So at the very least, move it to a Word document and then look how to make Word documents accessible, or move it to your Canvas shell. And I've done that. So I don't have any external links at all I have hyperlinks. I don't have any external documents. So when I first started this page, I had a packet that students would access with all the course material. Now that was like a 20-page packet. Now that's just miscellaneous pages throughout my shell. I had an external document that was my syllabus. Now it's not. My syllabus is multiple pages. Okay, so let's go through this. So first of all, you have bold. Bold has no impact on a course reader at all. Okay, so if somebody's using JAWS, bold doesn't mean anything. So if you're that type of person where you think, here, I'm going to put your instructor and I'm going to bold it so people can really see that. Okay, that's that key word there. People can really see that. A course reader will not be able to see that. So you think you're creating a hierarchy by bolding something, but for a course reader, it won't identify or won't see that hierarchy. So it's visually, a bold is great, but just be aware that you also have to create a header of that, which I'll talk about. So bold has no impact. You may absolutely use or not use bold if you want. Same thing with italics. If you want to italicize it, great. It has no impact. You know, it looks cool, but it has no impact, so you can use that. Don't underline. Absolutely do not underline, because underlining, and it used to be the way to hyperlink. So whenever you'd see something that was underlined, it was usually hyperlinked. It doesn't hyperlink like that anymore. So if my hyperlinks on my page don't do that. But a course like JAWS might read that as a hyperlink. So it might read your underlined content as sending you someplace else. So don't underline. You don't need to underline. Stop underlining. Okay? Any questions so far?
Yes. So there's a couple questions. What if a student wants to print out a syllabus? Does this mean that you have to print out one page at a time? That's the first question.
I guess my question would be back is, why would you want them to print out a syllabus? I mean, because, you know, here it's always accessible. So they're going to have this, like if I printed something out, I would, you know, I have sheets of, I'm surrounded by sheets of paper right now. I lose sheets of paper all the time, but I know that my syllabus is always on this Canvas page. But yes, the answer to that would be yes, because my syllabus, I'll just get out of this really quick. My syllabus is not one document. And there might be a reason. So if you have a clear identifiable reason for having them printed out, that's fantastic. And I'm not dissing anybody, but my syllabus, it looks like this. It's actually just a series of links. So I've taken all the concepts of my syllabus and I've broken them up into sections. So it's less a syllabus and more of an index. So if somebody wants to go back to the syllabus, they'll say, here's a class textbook. Oh, I need some help. How do I do this? So it's all here. So they don't have to scroll up and down. And my syllabus is also my very first module. So they engage in it. Okay.
And then the next question is, what you're saying about making external documents into internal page, does that also apply to linking an external media like a YouTube video? Should I create a Canvas page for that video?
No. So I'll talk about how to do, because that's a hyperlink. That's a little bit different. So you're hyperlinking to a separate page on the internet. So the only thing about if you're linking to a YouTube video, you just have to make sure that that YouTube video that you have is accessible. So I'm always nervous about using YouTube because it's like, what did I look at last? But let's see here. I'll show you something real quick since I'm kind of kicked out of here. So let's do public speaking basics. So just kind of, this is like a little thing. I've been looking at a lot of bourbon. I know people that know I'm a rum fan, but I might have to branch out into bourbon for my community. So anyways, so if you're ever on YouTube and you're thinking, okay, I need some of these videos here, but I need them to be fully captioned. The best way to identify a fully captioned YouTube video is do your search first, then go to filter, and then hit filter. And there are many different ways you can filter it by, but if you go over here and if you go to Creative Commons, if you're looking for stuff that's free and accessible, that you can use their content. If you're into OER, you can click here, but also go to Subtitles CC. And what that does is it filters it by most caption. So this video right here, this person actually fully captioned the video. So what I do is, so I go through here, and as you get down, it becomes less and less captioned, but you can tell if I clicked on this video, that video would be fully captioned. So just so you know, there is a way to look for it, for that, okay? Any more questions?
Yes, Carlos is saying, I love your syllabus links. Will that work pursuant to the evaluation rubric?
I'm not sure what that means. What's the evaluation? So you like a local evaluation at your campus?
Let's see. OEI, Keelan is.
Oh yeah, totally. If that's OEI, 100%. I mean, I learned that from OEI.
And Josh, are the links all pages?
My
Like
links are different things. I'll show you what my hyperlink. So yeah, sometimes it gets confusing between link and hyperlink. So link is kind of connecting things together. A hyperlink is taking us someplace else. So and I'll show you the two. Okay. So let's go back up here. So we have bold, italics, don't use underline. Now text color here, text and background color. So you might have students that are visually impaired. So what that means is they might have difficulty differentiating between colors. So you definitely want to avoid. So you might be that person that says, ooh, I like that yellow. I want to highlight this in yellow. Don't do that. Don't highlight anything in any color, because to the person that can see everything, it's great, but how much of an impact does it really have? But somebody that might have color contrast issues, that would be a problem. So your best bet is just do straight black and white. You know, if you can avoid colors, or you need to get better versed in color contrast. So don't use that. So all of these, you don't need these things. I mean, formatting. I mean, this is just creating your own text. That's all great. Okay. Now right here is a table. So if you have some sort of table in your shell, just be aware that your odds are that if you have a table in there, it is not captioned. So if you have your rows and your columns, right? So what those have to be is that you have to have some sort of identifier. So my recommendation for you, if you need a table, create your table here, right? Because you can do your cells, you can do your rows, you can do your columns, you can build it all here. And as it takes you through the process of building your table, it also makes sure that it's accessible. Okay, so, but if you're going to copy and paste it to something, just so you know, I'm going to get to this little person here later, this person will check the accessibility of that. So insert edit media, that's if you're going to put some media in there. So let's say, for example, you have a file on your folder on your desktop, you can insert it here, but this doesn't caption anything. So let's go to link to URL. So
a question,
Josh,
this is actually colors.
What's that?
Sorry, there was a question about, are red and green fonts recommended? I know this is an issue for folks who are colorblind.
I would just go black and white. I don't know. I can't say which colors are good or bad. I don't know. I would just go for black and white. And then when they do a hyperlink, they make it blue. So I don't mess with colors at all. Okay. So let's get a link here. So we had that YouTube video. Let's bring that up again. We'll do Whiskey Tribe. If you're into whiskey, actually, so I'm into bonsai trees. Whiskey Tribe is fantastic. So I have a bonsai tree collection in my backyard. I like bonsai trees. So if you want to hyperlink to a page, what you have to do is you'll have to copy that page. So edit, copy. Then you go back. Now the thing about what you never want to do on a page is you never want to do this. Just hit edit, paste. Because then what you do here, well, okay, so actually let me take that back a little bit. What happens now, so they've updated the content editor a little bit. Sometimes if you just take the link and copy and paste it, it will do what it did here, and it will give you the title instead of the hyperlink. Sometimes it doesn't. I have not been able to figure out what the algorithm is, why it does and why it doesn't. I haven't been able to figure that one out. Generally what you want to do, so these are bonsai, just so you know, it's bonsai, not bonsai. These are bonsai trees. Okay, so what you to point your students, you want to identify where they want to go to. So you never want to say click here or that kind of stuff, right? So for example, if you look at my hyperlinks up here, here's the title, Cal State LA. I used to teach at USC, so here's that link there. So what you do is you take whatever it is you want to talk about. These are bonsai trees. You highlight it. Okay, so again, you highlight it. Remember, we're talking about links. So think when you think, where is that? Think of link, think of chain link. So this is the chain, right? This is what allows you to create that link. So you click on it, and then that's where you hit paste. Okay, so now these are bonsai trees. So again, what I did was I took what I typed out, I highlighted it, and then I went to the, not highlighted everything. Okay, so I highlighted it, and then I went to link to URL. I put it in there, and this is updated too. I haven't seen this. Oh, this is exciting. So you can do an alt text now for inline preview. So you can kind of give a description of what that basically means. So that'll make sense when I talk about alt text. So basically what an alt text is, it's alternative text. So if they can't see it, it will describe what it is before they click on the link. So you can put, this is a video that shows top trees. Okay. And then you hit update link. So it won't say it, you won't be able to see it here, but what will happen is when a course reader is going through it, it will tell the person, this is a video that does this. So we can intuitively say, like when we save this, and we see that, we can say these are bonsai trees, and we can see this is a video. But if you can't see it, you'll need a text that describes it. So you can also add some text to it as well. Okay. So all of these are links. So this is links or hyperlinks, right? This link's here. You notice what I didn't do. I didn't say to view the Cal State Los Angeles Department of Communication Studies, click here, and then highlight click here. Right, because then you got to think about the course readers it's going through. It's easier to identify if you actually give the title of where it's going or give some descriptive information. Okay, are there any questions about hyperlink?
No, we're good.
All right, it's pretty straightforward, So, and I hope you realize that you've already covered so much in accessibility. Like if you get these concepts down, you're pretty good. Okay, so this is remove link. You don't need to do that one. You just need to, so just be careful of the two. I've done that before where for some reason I wasn't paying attention. I started clicking on this. I was like, where's that damn link? Won't link. And it wouldn't work. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm on the wrong one. So they're kind of close. This is the next one you want to focus on. This is really important. This is called embed image. So what this is if you have an image and you want to put it into your website or into your Canvas page. A lot of people ask, so where do you get images from? Well, if you click on that, if let's say, for example, you don't have an image, what this does is allows you to find images. So you can find it from a website, you can find it on Canvas already, and you can maybe find it on Flickr. What I do with my images is I just find images. There's a great website called Unsplash. So Unsplash is a great site because all the images are free and you can use them all. Okay, so it's a great source. So a lot of the images that you see throughout my course are from Unsplash. So you can upload. And what's weird here is that you can upload images over here, but it's Flickr. It's the strangest thing. So over here you get this, over here you get Flickr, but also if you go to, I'm gonna go out of this really quick. If you go to settings, and you want to change the image that the way your course looks like in your tiles, if you click on the image and you choose image here, it's Unsplash. So it's the weirdest thing. So there's no consistency. So here you have Unsplash, then you have, so there are different places to pick images. I just like to go directly to Unsplash, and I have a folder filled with all of these images, and I pull them in as needed.
Josh?
Yeah.
There is a question about hyperlinks.
Okay.
For someone who is visually impaired and using a screen reader, how would they know to click on the hyperlink? Does it say it's a hyperlink?
Yeah, it'll identify it.
Great.
It'll identify it. So that's why you want to write it in a way. And that's why also when you have an alt text, it identifies it and it provides context for it as well. Okay. So this one is, so embed image. That's how if you want to add an image. Okay. So, well, let's say, so it's going to look the same. So if you want to add an image from a website, but this right here is your alt text. So I'm going to show you my alt text real quick. So I have this picture here. And a screen reader would not read this because while it is a quote, it actually is an image. So that's something you got to be mindful of. Sometimes you will upload something and you think it'll be a quote that it will read and it's not. So if you go to like Google and you put something in, if you put Ralph Waldo Emerson and then you went to images, you would get images, not text. Okay. So you highlight this, click on that, and then you go to embed image. Okay, so the URL is, I've uploaded this. So just so you know, every page that you have in your Canvas shell, every document, every assignment, every page, everything that you have in your Canvas shell has its own hyperlink, just so you know. So that's why when you link to other stuff, you can do that. So you can do two things. Alt text means alternative text. So if somebody's at a course reader and they encounter this, what do you want the course reader to say? Okay, and that's alt text. So again, you highlight it and you go to embed image. You don't need to worry about any of this. You go to attributes. If it's just a pretty picture, it's of a sunset, you want to make your shell look cool, that's fine. What you do is you just hit decorative image. So what a decorative image does, so it just lets the reader just say, this is a decorative image, and then it moves on. Okay, but I really like this quote. So I have an alternative text. So basically, when the course reader when JAWS gets to this, it'll say an image of a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. All great speakers were bad speakers at first. Okay, so that's why in here, you notice how I don't have the words an image of, because the reader will say an image of. So if you type in an image of, the reader will say an image of a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. So don't worry about the image of language. Just put in here what you want to say about that image. Okay, and then if it's decorative, just click there, and then that takes that out, and it'll say decorative image, and it'll move on. Okay. So for example, I have a picture of me and my boys. Again, you click on it, embed image, and it just says photo of Professor Miller and his two boys. So it will say an image of a photo of Professor Miller and his two boys. Okay. So any questions on alt text? And this is the same thing. It's that same concept. So if you have an image on a Word document, it would need to be the same thing. Okay. If you have a picture on a PowerPoint, it would need to be the same thing. That's why PowerPoint's a little complicated, because you have all these pages and you do all these tricky things with your PowerPoint, which is cool. It's visually appealing, but to go through it. That's why I recommend, if you do use PowerPoint, if you use Zoom and you talk through the PowerPoint, then you have the accessibility feature covered. You don't necessarily need to have the PowerPoint itself accessible. All right.
Yeah.
So this, if you want to do math, great. This is a little button a lot of people aren't aware of. So it's just kind of a heads up. It's not really about accessibility, but there are a lot of cool things in here. So, and they get added all the time. So just kind of a heads up. You may or may not have some of the things that I have, but there are things that are available. So remember before I talked about 3C Media Solutions, so you may or may not have this, but we have it in our district. What I do is I click on this, and then all of the videos that I have uploaded and which are fully captioned in the 3C Media are here. If I ever wanted to insert it, I just insert it and it pops it in. It's great. Okay. Now size, in this case, sometimes you'll do a size here and you think, okay, you're making it bigger indicates, level of hierarchy. And that's fine, but just so you know, for a course reader like JAWS it won't separate size, right? It won't say we're now moving on to a big font. It identifies the hierarchy of your course by what are called headers. Okay, so this is a key concept. So if you understand those three basic concepts, right? So if you get captioning, alt text, well, for hyperlinking correctly, and headers, you've got most of your accessibility covered. Okay, now a header just basically means it's setting up the hierarchy. So header one. So as the reader is going through your course, header one will just be this, the title you set up for the page or the document, that will always be header one. So it's kind of like if you're looking at a structure like an outline format, this would be your Roman numeral one. Okay. And then header two would basically be your capital A, right? So you're creating that structure as it goes down. So, and you notice here, so look up here, this what tells you where the headers are. So see how it says header two up there? But when I go over here, it switches it to paragraph. Think of it as Roman numeral one, letter A, and then this is the content under letter A. So if I were to switch this, oops, it keeps moving up. If I were to switch this and then make that a like paragraph content, this would not consider to be accessible because the reader would not differentiate. So you can visually see the difference between this and this, but if you can't see, then you wouldn't be able to identify the difference because the course reader would treat this as the same. But if you highlight that and then you go to paragraph and make it header two, then it lets the reader know. Now, you may change the size because sometimes I will do a header. I'll get a header 3 that will be huge and it'll be bigger than my header 2. You may adjust the size. The size is not an issue. Size doesn't matter in this at all. So, but you may adjust the size. But let's say, for example, you have some more sub content. So notice what I have here. That this is header 1. This is header 2. So you can identify it right here. And then I get down to here, and that's header 3. So basically what you're doing is you're just setting up the structure for your course. And you don't, so just basically look at your page. If your page has a hierarchy and you have it, if you have broken up your pages into sections, each beginning of each section just needs to be a header. If the header 3 and all that kind of stuff is confusing you, anytime you have a break in your page that identifies some kind of new section, just make each break, the beginning of each break, a header 2, and then you're covered with headers. Okay, are there any questions on headers?
Not yet, but there is a question going back to the PowerPoint that you were addressing earlier.
Okay.
Are you suggesting that if you use PowerPoint, you should, in essence, pre-record it?
No. Well, so what I'm suggesting is if you're using a PowerPoint, a great way to make it accessible is to talk through the PowerPoint on Zoom and record yourself, because then it captions for you. Because if you have, well, so here's the thing. So let's say, for example, you set up a Zoom session, and in that Zoom session, it's live, it's synchronous, and you're showing PowerPoint. It has to, and you have somebody that needs accommodations. There are a couple of problems there because one is your Zoom being captioned. So that's why in my Zoom sessions, I'm careful of content, so you can actually record yourself talking through the PowerPoint and then you can post it. But if you put a PowerPoint on your website or on your Canvas shell, so you're like, hey, here's my PowerPoint, and download it and go through it, then that you have to know that each page, every image, it has to have the headers, has to have everything has to be captioned correctly. Okay. All right, so let's do a list here. Now, some of you might have a list, and you've numbered your list 1, 2, 3. If you have personally numbered your list 1, 2, 3, it is not accessible. Okay, it's just the reader won't read it like that. You need to format it. And just so you know too, like if you go to a Word document, if you go to PowerPoint, you go to any of those, you'll see some of these things. So you've probably seen these things, on your Word documents. It's the same concept. So what you do is you write your list first, and you highlight it, and you go up here. So if you wanted a bulleted list, you do that, and it creates the bullets for you. If you wanted a numbered list, you do that, and it creates the numbers for you. So this is what it's going to look like if you do it yourself. So if you do it like this, and then you number it. See what happens? So that's why you don't want to number it yourself. So let the system number it for you, because the content editor does not recognize these as numbers and doesn't know that you're making a list until you tell it to make a list, and it makes its own numbered list. So let's say, for example, when we do it here, let's see what it does. It still does the same thing. So if you ever have a list of things like, here are the 5 rules of this course, type out the 5 rules, do not number them, highlight all of them, and then hit either the bulleted list or the actual numbers. Any questions on that? Okay, a lot of this is pretty straightforward. You know, it's just knowing about it. Now we got this little dude here. So now this person right here, you know, just be careful. This person is always here, but sometimes if you have your page, and they've kind of moved it, but you notice if my browser was like that, I remember I took a training very early on, and it was an accessibility training almost exactly like this. But I was aware of the little dude. And the person training wasn't, because she was aware of some of the concepts, but you could tell she was kind of new to this world as well. And I said, what about the little dude? She didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, you have to expand your browser. And she went, oh, I didn't even know that was there. So just so you know, this person kind of disappears depending on the size of your browser. So what you do is you click on this person, and it says check accessibility. Okay, so adjacent links with the same URL should be a single link. Okay, so this is a new one. I've never actually seen this before. So I'm gonna see what happens here. I'm gonna merge these links. I have no idea what that means. I'll have to figure that one out. But basically, you got to be careful of this, because the accessibility checker, you get these beautiful balloons. Yay, you've done it. You can have a little party that says that you are accessible, but it's not quite accurate, which is ironic that the accessibility checker is not accurate with what it checks. If you have a table, it will check your table. That's great for checking your table. And another problem too is that whenever you now upload an image to your page, automatically alt text will be generated, but that alt text that's generated automatically may or may not be what you want it to say. Okay, so you may click on the little dude and you may get this and you think, oh, I'm fully accessible, but you may not be. So for example, if you have headers and footers, there's no way for the accessibility checker to know if you had headers or footers. If you have a list that's done incorrectly, it will identify your list and it will fix your list. So it fixed some issues, but be careful of assuming that because you get the balloons that everything is correct. Okay, so that's, just as a quick review, bold's okay, italic's okay, don't underline, don't have colors that contrast with each other. Make sure you let the system set up the list for you, bulleted list, numbers list. I recommend you add your table. And then, or you have to go through the checker once you've added it in. This is how you add your hyperlinks. This is how you embed media if you want to insert it. This is how you add the alt text or the description. You don't need any of these. Some cool features here. Just so you know, this kind of heads up if you didn't know. Here you can click on this button and it records, so if you just want to record yourself directly, you can click on that. So, set up your orientation. This is your size. This is your headers. And this is your checker. Are there any questions? We have about 10 minutes left. I want to get rid of this video here. So
no questions.
I have to be careful. A lot of times I do the training on my shell and then people go back to like, why is there a bonsai video in the middle of nowhere? Okay, what do you got for me?
Well, no questions yet, Josh. Looks like everything is clear. Oh wait, here we go. Are there links in your syllabus? Are the links in your syllabus external links to pages?
Oh, that's a good question. So let me show you. So if I go to my home, actually, so let me just go to my syllabus. So what I've done in my syllabus is each one of these is its own separate page. Okay, so this is just creating hyperlinks. It's the same thing, but what you're doing when you do this is, so you have to do all the pages first. Right, so this is what takes a long time. I love it now, and the feedback I've gotten from my students is great because it's so easy to find information. But what I do is, so I have a class textbook page. Okay, so I have to set this up first. And this is just a hyperlink to that class textbook page. But if I want to link it, what I do is, so you have to hit edit. And let's say, for example, I want to add a new page. Okay. Again, it's highlighting it, but where do you find your pages? So this is where all of your internal stuff is. So if you wanted to link this page to your syllabus. So for example, each page of my syllabus actually links back to the syllabus. But if you want to link it to a particular page, all you have to do is add new page. And let's say, for example, I want this to be my course syllabus sample. I click on that and then I update it. And that becomes my link. Okay. So basically what you're doing is you're just creating internal hyperlinks. And it kind of goes back to what I said before. Remember what I said, that every single page in your shell has its own URL. So when you are crafting a page, it's at the moment you say you save it, that page that you have saved is a URL. So you're just kind of linking. So for example, if you look at my module, so when I go through my modules, a lot of it just kind of links back. So a good example is my page that I have throughout is my recording mistakes page, because students have to record themselves. So I have a description of what they have, this mistake that they make, but this page is in my syllabus, right? So it's here in my syllabus, but I link back to it here in my first speech, here in my second speech, and then here in my third speech, and then here in my fourth speech. I keep linking back to that page as a constant reminder. So a lot of it, so here's another good example. So I'll give you, let's go to my informative written. So my students have to write an MLA paper, okay? So in this, you notice that my assignment, I have a kind of a system for how I do it. So for every assignment that I do or in discussion, I have a prompt, I have guidelines, I have the rubric, and then I have additional support. So I link back to the assignment. So students don't actually have to go back or wonder where was that assignment again? I link back to everything. And then I also provide samples. This is a good example of PDF. So I collected a bunch of samples from previous classes, and they're all in the form of PDF. So what I did was, instead of having students download PDFs, I just copied and pasted the content, and I made sure it was fully, had all the headers, not everything that they needed.
Josh, a few questions.
Okay.
Let's start with the syllabus, since we're here,
Okay.
and you just went over it. Regarding the links to your course syllabus, our college wants a copy of the entire syllabus. So do you have an actual multi-page syllabus to provide to Dean/chair for their files?
No. So what you can do is you can give them the link. So we're moving toward that. So we have the same policy, but what they're recognizing is that you can't, right? So if we're training in this kind of system, and you also have to ask, what is the syllabus for? Generally, the syllabus is for a couple of things. It's usually for articulation. And it's usually not local articulation. It's usually because somebody wants to go to school in Minnesota or something, and then want to make sure that course articulates. But a lot of times when people ask for the syllabus, I say, well, what about the course outline of record? But also it's in case something happens to you. So let's say, for example, you're teaching and then you get sick or something like that. I've had that happen multiple times. But this new system, and you might need to have an internal conversation with your department and your campus, is that we have the ability now is we don't need a paper syllabus, because if all of a sudden I can't teach this course anymore, anybody, like the DE coordinator, can put the department chair into this course to be able to see it and access it. So that's that. We need to have that second level of conversation. So I do not copy each page. And I'm the department chair, but I know that if something were to happen to me, they can get into this course.
Okay, thank you. And then Michael is asking, Josh, have you used closed captioning feature in PowerPoint? Do you ever use the recording function in PowerPoint without recording via Zoom? And when is it best to create a page versus just uploading a file?
So no, I've never used that feature. So I know that PowerPoint is much more accessible. Like I used the most recent version when I got this computer, and I was like, oh, there's interesting stuff there. I personally don't use PowerPoint. just because in class, I like to write on the board because it helps me process information. I use it here for these systems, and we don't need to have it captioned well yet. I mean, that's something we definitely have to think about. So I'm not a big PowerPoint person. The only thing about it is what are you doing with it? If you're talking through the PowerPoint, then I would record it on Zoom. But if you just want students to scroll through the PowerPoint, you can just upload it, and then students can have, the file. And then that answers the second question, is when would you upload something? Well, if it was a PowerPoint and you put a lot of work into the PowerPoint, you could take that PowerPoint and make it into a module or a series of pages. You could copy and do each page, and they could just kind of scroll through it. So in many ways, like my first module of my syllabus is kind of like a PowerPoint, because it's kind of like, here's page 1, and then here's page 2. So it's kind of like, what are you doing with your PowerPoint? So like the PowerPoint for this session, all it was a little bit of content. I could have just as easily put that, copy and pasted that content to a page on Canvas. So my question would always be, what's your goal? If you have a PDF, why do you need it to be external? If it's PowerPoint, why do you need it to be external and link to it?
And then Nancy was asking, how does the recording feature work when you were going through all the little features on the content editor? And then a follow-up question to that, if you do record yourself, will it close caption for you?
No. So some of you might have Canvas content editor. I think that's what it's called. If you do use it, you're pretty lucky, because I guess it's really expensive. I've been trying to get it in our district. So, so once I use my microphone, so I'm not gonna, it might be a little meta here. That'd be kind of weird. I could see me seeing me. But basically, if you just click on that, and you can record yourself talking. You just click on it, and it'll pop up, and then you'll see yourself in the camera, and you just hit record. And you can record here, and you can also record in your assignments. So if you go to an assignment or a discussion, and we only have a couple minutes left. Oh, I can't do it anyway, so never mind, because I don't have any students. But you can, there's a little button. So the area where you can leave comments for students' assignments, underneath it, there are a couple of little buttons, and one of them is just to do an audio recording, and one is to do a video recording. So it's not captioned, just kind of a heads up. But if you kind of want to talk to your students and have them talk to you, have them see you talk to them about the assignment, that's an option as well.
Another question from Rosalia, related to images. If a student embeds an image, does it affect accessibility of the course? We use an ally score to determine accessibility of Canvas courses, and I'm wondering if having 80 students post images will affect it. I'm having them record an explanation, though, so that hopefully that makes it accessible to visually impaired students.
It depends. So if you upload images, and I don't know if students can provide alt text. I don't know, because I've never had students do that. That's something to look at. So when they upload it, what are they saying? And they might be able to provide alt text as well. I don't know. But generally, yeah, if you provide wraparound information, and that's always the problem with having students do content. So for example, in my students have to present speeches to themselves, and that's kind of a big flaw in my course design, which I haven't figured out a way around. That's why I kind of use YouTube, because it's mostly caption, but they have to put speeches on it, and other students have to watch those speeches, but there's no way for them to fully caption it unless they go through each document. It's complicated. But I don't know with images if students can provide alt text. So yes, providing wraparound context is probably not a perfect content. It's probably not a perfect solution, but it's better than just putting the image in there.
And then how do you create those symbol icons that precede, quote, class question board?
So I don't create them. What I've done is so one, I had a course designer drop. Oh, where'd it go? Oh. So I worked with an instructional designer that gave me a bunch of those, but those are called PNGs. And the idea behind it, all it is an image. So if you went to Canvas Commons, which I'll do a future session next week, and then you had any of these, you can get these things. They're just little pictures, right? And then what you do with the pictures is just like anything, is that you just click on it. So it's like an image. So for example, if you go to my homepage, you notice on my homepage, I have these images here. All of these are images that have a link attached to it. Right, so it's the same thing as anything. So you can find images, you can find templates, and just kind of a heads up, we had a conversation yesterday of a template. So probably the next week or two, I'd say 2 weeks, depending how this week goes. We at 3CSN, what we're going to do is we are going to develop a design template on the Commons that will have a lot of these buttons and a lot of these little things on it. So you can import it into your shell, and I can just show you how to add links and that kind of stuff for your own content. So look for that. I'd say give us about 2 weeks. But each one of these, all it is an image that's linked. So it's hyperlinked to something else.
Right. Nancy's asking if when you record yourself in Canvas, are those recordings saved anywhere?
They're saved in that place you record them. I don't know about an external document. I don't know, because I've never actually recorded myself. I think if you go, yes, I bet it does. So I haven't personally used it, but I bet it saves it as a URL like it would save any sort of document or image. I'm sure it creates a page for it.
And then Nick is also asking, with the PNG, is it possible to also use JPGs?
Yes,
JPEGs?
you can use JPEGs.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. These are just images. So these are images, which is a JPEG. The other one's just more of a it's a cartoon type of thing. Mm-hmm. So anything can be uploaded into it. And the point isn't the image or the JPEG or any of that kind of stuff. It's that you link it to something else. Like, what's the point? Or it just could just look cool. Like, for example, here in my modules, when I get to my fear of public speaking assignment. So I have these, and you're probably talking about these right here. I mean, they're cool. They're not needed. I mean, I kind of like it, but you could just as easily just put prompt, guidelines, rubric, additional support.
Josh, how do you create those lines, those thick lines like that to separate?
That I don't know. That is something that was created for me, and I need to do additional training, because I try to add lines. And I see, the thing is about the lines is they move. When I added lines, they kind of go down. But that's all HTML, and I think I'm gonna have to start going through like HTML training to figure out some of these things, because a lot of these things you have to put it into the code. So if you know anything about coding, like being able even to put these lines in between here like this, to float it like that and create that space, is all HTML code. So for example, if you go here. You have an HTML editor up here, and you have to be able to know how to insert code in between that to do those things. And I don't know how to do that yet.
Right.
But I think I'm going to be trained in it. All right. Any more questions, or I think we're about out of time?
Yeah, we're out of time. But it says, Josh, can you set up a course for me? Laugh out loud. Thank you for this presentation. Nick
well,
says,
kind of. That's what I'm talking about. So I didn't get to the Canvas Commons. So what we're going to do, assuming everybody says yes, like it was just an idea we came up with yesterday. So we need to get the higher ups to approve it. And so we're going to develop a 3CSN shell that we'll put on the Commons. A lot of these features that you see here, you'll be able to sort of upload it, and I'll show you how to use them. So for example, we would keep this here like this, so you can use all these buttons and go, okay, cool. And then about your instructor, we probably just put a different image there so everybody's not looking at me. And then, so we'd have like a template for the syllabus, that kind of stuff.
Or we could just keep Josh's picture, and we could just be like Walking Dead.
Brand it.
I am Josh.
We're all Josh.
Everybody wants to be Josh.
We're all Josh.
Well, you're getting a lot of positive feedback, a lot of thank yous. This information has been very helpful. There's been some of the feedback from Christy. It saves her some time. So thank you so much, Josh.
Great, you're welcome. And again, this recording, so there are past recordings of accessibility on 3CSN, and this
there sure are. And I put the at the very top, or towards the top, you should see the YouTube channel, so that you can just go directly to the YouTube channel, because our archive page gets a little bogged down. There are a lot of videos on there, but the YouTube channel, you can just scroll through that.
I don't see it.
I pasted it in there. Let me do it again.
Is that a clicking sound?
Right here. Right there.
Ooh, I'm going to save that channel. All right, great.
Tune into our channel.
Woo.
All right, everybody. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a good
All
one.
right.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
Keelan. Thanks,
Thank you.
Josh.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.